Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, bringing you not an unboxing, but some tips on how to maintain your cast iron pans. Now, I don't claim to be an expert, but I have owned these two cast iron pans for more than a year now, almost a year and a half, and I've watched and researched ways on how to cook with them and how to maintain them and how to use them, and I think I've come up with a really good tip that I would like to share with you. Alright, so let's get started. First of all, this is my 10-inch large cast iron pan. I also have the 12-inch version. Which one to get? In my opinion, it's best that you get both, because you will never know when you might need a bigger one or when you might need a small one. In this case, this morning, I will use this one because I'm just gonna cook one egg. Now, as you can see, hopefully the camera will focus, that is how the surface of both my cast iron pan looks. I have seasoned them using grapeseed oil. You know, I would highly recommend that you use grapeseed oil when you season your cast iron pan, because so far, especially with this big one, I've been using it a lot. I find that food does not stick much to it. It will still stick, but it is much easier to wash off, and I find that the seasoning doesn't come off easily compared to my other attempts at seasoning this cast iron pan, which is I used to do seasoning using avocado oil and also peanut oil, but the best so far oil that I've found out is grapeseed oil. So how do I season it? I actually season them when I first bought them, and then periodically when the surface of the cast iron pan becomes dull, I would wash them really well, scrub them off, and then re-season them. I usually do 6 cycles. That is why I have this surface here. That is the equivalent of 6 seasoning cycles. You probably have seen ways of seasoning cast iron pans. I use the oven method. I preheat the oven to just above the smoking point of grapeseed oil, which is, I believe, the smoking point of grapeseed oil is around 230 degrees centigrade, so, or 220 or something. So I put my oven at around 240 degrees centigrade. Wipe this with grapeseed oil and buff it so that there will be just a very thin coating. Put it in the hot oven for an hour, and then I let it cool. And then I repeat the process. I would rub oil again and put it back in the oven for another hour and let it cool after an hour. And this is the result of 6 cycles. And so far, everything is working well. Okay, this morning I will be working with this 10-inch pan. I will show you how I cook with it and show you how non-stick it is. It will still stick. Food will still stick, but I will show you what you need to do to clean it and maintain it. So the first tip that I will give you is to make sure to preheat your cast iron pan before you cook. I will turn on my stove to at around medium, and I will set a timer for 5 minutes. So I have my stove at a medium low, just below medium, and during this time, this 5-minute preheating wait, you can probably start preparing your ingredients. I'm just gonna cook 1 egg, so I don't have to do much, so we'll just wait for this pan to heat up. One way of finding out if your pan is hot is to just touch the handle. Once you feel that it's hot to the touch, it's probably warm enough. But right now, we will continue and watch the timer go. At around 1.5 minutes left, this is where I introduce my fat to the cast iron pan. And I usually use butter. I find that butter is the best oil to use when you're cooking with your cast iron pan. So I just drop in a substantial amount of butter and we'll move it around. It's smoking a lot, so I'm just gonna lower the heat of my pan and wait for this butter to melt. That's what I'm looking for. Once that butter bubbles up, I think we're ready to go. But I will still wait for the timer to go off, making sure that I preheated this pan for 5 minutes. And I have my flame now on low, just so that I will not burn the butter. Okay, timer went off. Time to drop in my egg. I'm just gonna crack it over my pan. There you go. So I think my pan is still too hot, but right now we're just gonna leave it right there, let it cook at very, very low heat, and then I'll probably microwave my rice now, the rice bowl that I'm planning to eat for breakfast. So this is the slow process that I cook my egg. I just let it sit there for probably a minute or two, or a couple of minutes, or even more. And if I try to shake this, I'll probably show you that how non-stick it is. I can probably slide in underneath. I don't want to disturb it because I want the egg to really, really set before being able to move it. But normally at this point, yeah, I can feel some resistance there. There will be some sticking, but it's not too much that you won't be able to move it around. There you go. I was able to set it free. I'll probably shake the pan just to show you that it's free. Hopefully, I'm really hoping that it will stick. There might be some sticking part there. I want to show you that part so that I will show you how to clean it. Okay, let's just wait for my rice to cook and wait for this egg to cook. Sometimes to speed up the cooking process more, I would put a cover on top of the pan, on top of the egg, I mean. Give it a minute. By this time, there is so much residual heat on this cast iron pan, I probably cannot turn off my flame now. And I will just allow the residual heat to continue cooking the top of the egg. Alright, I think the egg is done. I'm just gonna get it. So you can see how easily that slides off. The egg is still a bit raw, which is what I want when I do my rice bowl. Just put it on top of that rice. Get some sesame oil and drizzle some of them on top of the egg. I also have some furikake here that I will sprinkle on top of my rice bowl, and that will be my breakfast for this morning. Okay, now here's another tip. Right after cooking, I make sure that I use a paper towel and wipe off all that oil off the pan. I will not allow it to sit and allow that butter to solidify or any oil that's in there. Right after cooking, with a pair of tongs, I will go and wipe the pan clean and dry as much as I can. If there will be any food bits sticking on the surface of this pan, I would just clean it off, which I will show you later after I eat. So here I am, continuing to clean the pan. As you can see, not much eggs stuck to it. There's no sticking. Oh, there is some here. Right there, I can see that a bit of the egg stuck there. Oh, now it's off. All right. I think that's good. Well, and the reason why I'm doing it this way is because I don't want to rinse this with warm water and then all those grease and fat and oil will go down my kitchen sink drain. No, I don't want that. That is why I'm removing as much oil and fat off the pan before I clean it up. Okay, that's how it looks. And at this point, I would like to mention that in some tips that I've researched and learned, some owners would just leave it like that. That's it, they're done. It's what they call dry clean. They won't even wash it, they will just leave it like that. I tried that system, and boy, it's really, really bad. You can just imagine all that gunk remaining there, not being washed. Food bits, it blackens your cast iron when you clean it, and when you try to just wipe it off, you will see that your paper towel will be full of those black bits. I think that's the cause of it, so I don't do that. I will just eat my breakfast, and then I will show you how I clean my cast iron pan. Okay, I've finished eating, and I'm ready to clean this cast iron pan. It still feels warm to the touch. I would recommend getting some of this. This is a scraper from Lodge. I would provide the link in the description box below if you want to get one. This is what I use to scrape off any food bits that get stuck in here. And sometimes I also use this brush also from Lodge. But as you can see, this is the result of 6 cycles of seasoning. So far, no sticking. And look at that. If I was just to wipe this off dry and then put it back in storage, ugh, that's yucky. So what I'll show you is how I will clean it. To clean a cast iron pan, or at least the way I clean it, is I make sure that the water is warm, and then I will just give it a good rinse. Just rinsing it like this will not remove any oil or debris from the pan, any food sticking. You know what I do? This might shock you. I would use a tiny bit of soap and gently wipe it and wash it. This way, all those grease, all those oil will be removed off the surface of the pan. It's not gonna strip off the seasoning. It will if you use the rough side and then you go at it hard. But if it's just gently like this, what it's doing is just lifting off any grease or any food bits. Okay, and after I do that, I give it a good wash. Yeah, there you go. And to prove it, I'm just gonna get this is my dedicated kitchen rag that I use to dry it off. See? Very, very clean. Okay, I'm just gonna dry this off, and then I'm gonna put it back on the stove to do one more step before I store it away. Okay, we're back on the stove, and this will be a perfect time for me to inspect the surface of the pan. I see that there are some dull spots here that maybe I need to scrub off with some soap. But as you can see, my seasoning didn't come off when I washed it with soap. But right now I really want it to look really clean, and I'm just gonna hit it where I think there's some dull spot there where food was stuck during the time that I cooked the egg. Okay, back to the sink, and I'm just gonna give it a. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do it here. I'm gonna grab my sponge, and I'm just gonna give it. I'm even gonna use the rough part of the sponge. There you go. As you can see, yeah, sponge is clean. No seasoning coming off. The pan's surface is really, really clean. Okay, I'm just gonna give it a quick rinse. Okay, I just cleaned the pan off camera, and then I'm gonna use this dedicated rag to clean it off. Let's look at the rag. See how clean that is? Wait, I need to fold it so that you can see that. See? No residue whatsoever. Okay, time to... This is what I do before I store my pans. So I make sure that it's dry. And for good measure, I will turn on my stove, put it on medium again, and let it go for another 5 minutes, just to make sure that all those water evaporates, because you don't want water to be on your cast iron pan. That's the one that will make it rust. But this process is what I do. As you can see, look at that pan. It's still so shiny after using soap. So there's no way soap, if you just use it gently with a sponge, will remove the seasoning if you seasoned your pan correctly. And just to reiterate, I did 6 cycles of a seasoning using, come on, focus, grapeseed oil. Okay, go back to the pan. Focus now on the pan. All right, so we will just let this go for 5 minutes, and then we will put some oil, rub oil on it so that it will it will be protected, and maybe prepare it for next cooking. So I'm still preheating. I'm still heating up the pan just to make sure any residual water will be removed. I have a dedicated rag that I use to wipe oil on the pan after every use. As you can see, it's very, very clean. That's how clean this pan gets when I use soap to wash it. Okay, now would probably be a good time to show you how I put on oil before I store it. I just put in, I'm using grapeseed oil, the same grapeseed oil that I used to season it, just a tiny bit. You only need a tiny bit. And because this dedicated rag that I use for wiping oil on it is probably saturated with oil already. Yeah, there you go. I'm just gonna wipe the surface of the pan. As you can see, there's a thin coating of oil on it. And I'm just gonna wait for that 5 minutes to end and watch carefully for any wisp of smoke that will rise up from the pan. And that's when I turn the flame off and just let the pan cool down. I also use a rag instead of a paper towel, because with a paper towel, when you do this thing, the paper towel would leave some lint on the pan, which is not nice. But with a lint-free rag like this, everything's nice. Okay, I'm still buffing it just to remove any excess oil, and I'm waiting for the pan to smoke a bit before I will turn off the heat and let it cool down. And then once it's cooled down, I will store it inside. I actually store it inside my oven. Okay, I'm not sure if it's visible, but wisps of white smoke is starting to rise up from the pan after 5-6 minutes of preheating. This is the time that, or heating up, I mean. This is the time that I turn off the stove, turn on the exhaust fan, and then I'll just leave it there like that and let it cool down. And before I store it, I would again use my dedicated rag, wipe off any excess oil. Once it's cooled down, okay, once it's cooled down, and if there's any oil that is visibly showing on the surface of the pan, I would use the rag to wipe it off and then store the pan. Alright, here you go. The pan is really cool to the touch now. I will just use my dedicated rag to wipe off any excess oil, if any, just to give it a good buff before I store it. And if you look at my dedicated rag, if only the camera would focus, you can see how clean that is. Come on, focus. Nah, it's not gonna focus. That's it. Thanks for watching. If this video is of value for you guys, give me a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!